this is the Variety Kid, and I know I've been gone for a while. It's just I've had some hard times making videos. I've actually tried making some videos, but I tried making like numerous videos, and they failed, or I felt like they would fail for numerous reasons, like while I was making them. But today I'm back with a biography on Tim Cook. Okay, so Timothy Donald Cook, or what he goes by, just Tim Cook, was born on November 1st, 1960 in Mobile, Alabama, to Donald, who actually I just said was his middle name, and Geraldine, and had one older and one younger brother. His family later moved to Pensacola, then Robertsdale, Alabama in 1971, which is where he went to high school. It's not necessarily surprising considering that he works at Apple headquarters today. But however, he was the second to graduate in 1978. He was the second to graduate in his class, which was okay. And I'll say he also graduated from Auburn University in 1982 with a bachelor's degree in industrial engineering. So Tim Cook was like really intelligent and got like a lot of good stuff in terms of education. That was the first part of his life, like from birth to the point where people would generally graduate from college, but actually for him, he stayed in college a little bit longer. After graduation from Auburn in 1982, he spent 12 years in IBM's PC business, and during that time, University in North Carolina gave him his MBA and was also awarded title of FACWA Scholar, meaning he graduated in the top 10% of his class. After that, he worked at two other electronic stores before working at Apple. One of which was less than a year. Okay. In 1996, he was misdiagnosed with MS, and since then has been a big contributor to charities and bike races for good causes. That was the second part of his life, where from the normal graduation of college to before he went to Apple. Now the next part is going to talk about before he was CEO but worked at Apple. Okay. In 1998. Steve Jobs asked Tim Cook to join Apple, and it may have not been right away, but sometime in Q1 1998, Steve Jobs asked Tim Cook to join Apple, and he did so in March 1998. His first position was Senior Vice President for Worldwide Operations. Apple was Apple actually was not, back to the story. Apple was not in great shape. Okay, you know what? I'm going to move the camera. Apple was not in great Apple was not in a good situation in terms of finances before he joined, but a year after he was asked to join, however, less than a year after he was asked to join, the company was experiencing, you know what, I need to readjust this, the company was experiencing profits, which was a great change from when they lost $1 billion from the prior fiscal year, or I don't know how to pronounce it, but a fiscal year here in the U.S. is from October 1st to September 30. Cook took over jobs the 3 times when he left due to his cancer. The first one was August 1, 2004, and he returned. He said he'd return on the 1st of September. However, things may have changed, so it was most likely the 1st of September, and it was almost certainly around September 1st, January 14, 2009, and he returned sometime in the second half of June 29, and in 2009, actually most likely during that period, he even offered Jobs a portion of his liver since they presumably have the same blood. And starting January 2011, and starting January 17, 2011, however, he did return at least 3 times. Two of those events, which were right by each other. Like, one was June 6, 2011, and the other was June 7, 2011. Also, in 2010, Tim Cook said his most significant discovery was his decision to join. So that was the third part of his life, like before he became CEO. Now the next part is like while he was CEO. So Tim Cook became CEO on October 24, 2011, exactly 6 weeks before Steve Jobs died. However, actually, even after that, even after he became CEO, Steve Jobs still got to visit Apple and did get to visit Apple some. And on October 4th, 2011, Steve Jobs announced the iPhone 4S, which actually, despite the fact that Steve Jobs would have most likely hated the iPhone 4S due to Siri, despite the fact that he knew about it and used it shortly before his death. Starting on October 29, 2012, and I'm actually not sure if these changes were necessary, Cook made changes to Apple's executive team as Scott Fostel resigned as senior vice president and became an advisor to Tim Cook until he departed in 2013, and John Browlett was dismissed just 6 months after he began working there. On May 28, 2014, Apple bought Beats Music and Beats Electronics for $3 billion, making it their most expensive thing to date, and still might actually be their most expensive thing. Okay. And as a result of that, the co-founders joined Apple as executive roles. In May 2016, Tim Cook traveled to China to meet their government officials after they closed down the iTunes and iBook store there in China. In April 2016, Cook fundraised for the election of Hillary Clinton, which I know a lot of people don't like, as Donald Trump won the elections in November of 2016. In late December 2017, Apple was hit with multiple lawsuits after they intentionally slowed down the performance of older iPhones, which that actually might cover my iPhone because I have a 6 Plus, which is the second oldest iPhone still supported. Which if I haven't said it, they did apologize for that, which, did make it somewhat better. And then, since he became CEO, he created numerous iOS stuff that Steve Jobs wouldn't have liked, besides the 4S. On September 12, 2012, he announced the iPhone 5, which had a 4-inch screen instead of a 3.5-inch screen, which actually most people actually like because 3.5 inches is somewhat small. Along with the iPod Touch 5, which had the protruding camera lens, which actually I don't somewhat like that, but however, an advantage is sometimes it opens the rooms. However, an advantage is that sometimes it gives you more camera megapixels. But however, companies like Samsung, like Samsung reduced the camera bump in 2016 in exchange for less megapixels. A month later, he announced the iPad Mini, which had only a 7.9-inch screen, and Steve Jobs said it should be at least 10-inch. Steve Jobs said the iPad should have at least 10-inch screen, which, even though the iPads were 9.7, he meant around 10 inches, which would be at least 9.5 inches. But however, anyways, on June 10, 2013, he announced iOS 7, which actually I used to dislike the design also, but which removed Steve Jobs' skeuomorphic designs. On September 9, 2014, he announced the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus, which the 6 Plus, like I said, is the one I'm using right now. This is actually where I'm reading the information from. And added the protruding camera lens, as you can see here, the camera protrudes, And also later put it on the iPad Pro, which actually, to mention, had an Apple Pencil, and Jobs wouldn't have liked that. And actually, soon after, I didn't like this, and I mean, it was actually removed. But however, Apple released iOS 8.1, which actually was a mistake. It bricked cellular service on the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus, which I really don't understand. It didn't affect the older ones, so why couldn't they just have? But however, why couldn't they just have not let it be for? However, why couldn't they just let 4S through 5S users have iOS 8.0.1? But okay, okay. On June 13, 2016, he removed Apple's Slide to Unlock with iOS 10, and actually this is just about like stuff that Apple did, not necessarily only Tim Cook. And on September 12, 2017, he announced the iPhone X, which had no bezels except a notch, which was kind of against Steve Jobs' design, and a very slim back bezel around the edges of the screen. So those were the only bezels, which actually in an iPhone X video made by Apple, they did say, for over a decade, it's been our intention to make a phone with all screen, or actually in this case, almost all screen. So anyways, hope y'all enjoyed this. I know I said 20 weeks at the beginning, but I meant 20 days at the beginning, but actually it's turned into 21 days at least. I know this video was actually one of the hardest to make. But however, I hope you enjoyed it, and could you please be sure to subscribe, because I've had some slow subscribing growth rate. I mean, you don't have to subscribe, however, I mean, I said it would be highly appreciated, and now I feel like it's maybe a little bit more highly appreciated. Thanks.